Hello guys, how's it going? Screezilla here, I hope you're all well. So, finally happened. Get into that story a little bit. The Katyusha, the BM-13N. Yes, we have it in game, folks. The legendary rocket launcher. Now we have the BM-824 as well, which you have to play to get the Katyusha. The BM-824 is a much better vehicle than the Katyusha. I can see them lowering the BR of the Katyusha after a small bit of time, because, well, it's, to say the least, it's a little bit crap to use. It's a fantastic vehicle, but we'll get into that in a little bit. First of all, we're just going to have a quick look at it in the garage. So, you have got some armour. You've got 4mm of armour over your driver and commander. And, of course, you have your 1mm of armour around the rest of the cab. Well, that's 5mm of armour around everywhere else. This thing has no armour. Light gunfire will destroy you, basically. And as you see, you've only got 2 crew members. You've got the commander and the driver. So, one hit in the cab, you are screwed, generally. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating. Good things. You have the Katyusha rockets. Now, you have the 132mm rockets on this one, instead of the 82mm on the BM-8. So these things do some serious damage. They're pretty heavy rockets. So, little story time. After 24 games of getting 4 kills, I finally did get the Katyusha. I did go a little stir crazy getting this thing. I must admit, I did go a little bit crazy. As you saw probably in my video, with lots of swearing involved. It was very frustrating. As I said, I managed 24 games with 4 kills, and my 25th game, I got 4 kills again, but I got the Katyusha, so I'm not going to complain too much. I think because I actually own the BM-824, I think they changed it slightly, so you only have to win a match to get the Katyusha, which would have been nice if that had happened a few nights ago, instead of me going absolutely stir crazy from trying to get it. 5 kills does not seem like a lot, but it is quite hard to get 5 kills in a game when your playstyle isn't balls to the walls, charge in sort of craziness. So yeah, I did struggle a little bit from that, because I'm a bit more of a cautious player. I tended to get 4 kills every single game though, and just never that 5th kill, because I'd usually get owned by a plane. But anyway, it's over with now. I'm done. I have this truck to finally do my piece on. So, the Katyusha rocket artillery piece. Let's go into a replay, and let's start talking about this. Now, I did do a custom battle for the replay, just because I've been doing a few games, and basically everybody's using the Katyusha, and it's very hard. I had one game where I got a kill with it. I'll talk to you when I get to the end with that one. So, Katyusha was given, the name Katyusha was given to these K-trucks because of secrecy concerns. The vehicles were actually kept top secret. The first mention of the BM-13 was not placed into any documents until 1942, 3 years into their service. Now, I'm just doing a launch here of the Katyushas. So, classified officially as guards mortars and codenamed Kosikov guns, but the name Katyusha, equivalent to name that of Katie in English, stuck to this machine. after the Red Army adopted it as its nickname. From Nikolai Ishkovsky, popular song of the same name, Katyusha. Later on, the heavy BM-13N, the 300mm launcher, was named the Andrusha, or Andrew. Another name it's widely known as, coined by the Germans, was Stalin's organ, of course, and that was the name that stuck with it for a while too. Mainly due to the sound it made when it launched its rockets. I would suggest looking it up on YouTube because you don't get a full sound of it in this game. They don't sound quite right yet. There's something off about the sound. This machine was not only frightening due to its speed, but it had the added psychological warfare element to it too of that sound. But we're here to talk about the BM-13. Now, the 132mm BM-13 launcher was actually equipped to a number of different trucks, such as the ZIS-6, which also towed a trailer, also a sled version of this weapon, the International Harvest M55318 truck, the Fordson W08T truck, the Ford Marmon Heriton HH6COE4, the Chevrolet G7117, the GMC CCKW, and it was also used on railcars and the Project 1125 riverboats. And, of course, the Studa, as the Russian Red Army troops affectionately called it. The Studebaker US-6, which we have here, who were the largest foreign user of the truck. Russia was the largest foreign user of this truck, initially designed especially for the Lend-Lease program, the Lend-Lease program, to be exported to the USSR by America. The 6x6 truck was an excellent workhorse and was so appreciated by the USSR. Even Joseph Stalin sent a letter to Studebaker thanking them for the vehicle. Powered by the Hercules JXD inline-6 engine, it could run on a low-grade gasoline 71 octane, I think it was, or 76. The engine was also very reliable, and it had a good torque to it. It was a very good engine overall, and it was used for quite a long time. It was much loved by its operators. This truck was also used as the base for the USSR designed ZIS-151 trucks, which sort of were used after the Second World War. The Katyusha was designed as a quick deployment artillery weapon. It was far less accurate than conventional artillery at the time. But what it lacked in accuracy, it made up for in sustained bombardment. This weapon was not designed for pinpoint strikes, but was for a wide area of destruction, and for demoralization of enemy troops. A battery of 4 trucks could launch a salvo in 7 to 10 seconds and deliver 4.35 tons of high explosives over a 4,000 square meter impact zone from a distance of around about 3.5 to 4 miles, making its effectiveness roughly equivalent of 72 conventional artillery pieces in the time of firing. Its biggest strength, however, was the ability to redeploy after a salvo. It could redeploy immediately after the firing of its salvo, meaning the enemy could not organise counter-offensive with its own artillery. The general Katyusha battery consisted of between 10 and 20 trucks. Their main role was to shock and confuse the enemy and cause as much damage as possible in the shortest time period. Their biggest drawback, however, was lengthy reload time. It took up to 50 minutes for the rockets to be reloaded, in contrast to regular artillery weaponry, which could sustain a barrage of fire, continuous at a low rate of fire, of course. The rockets themselves and the launcher were developed in 1938 originally, using the aircraft RS-132 rocket. It was mounted on the side of the ZIS-5 truck, but this proved highly unreliable and was soon replaced by launcher rails over the top of the vehicle. In 1939, the BM-13 was constructed. Testing was proving well with the rockets, able to hit targets at around 3.4 miles. However, the artillery branch of the army were not fond of the idea due to the long reload times for 24 rockets on a single vehicle, or 24, 16 rockets, depending on the rockets you're using. 50 minutes of reload time, whereas a conventional howitzer could fire up to 150 rounds in this time. However, cost and ease of use came into the final choice. In 1940, the BM-13-6 was authorised. However, only 40 of these launches were made before the German invasion started in June of 1941. In the early stages of the invasion, the BM-13 proved to be highly successful in the first months of war, and mass production was approved. The rocket launcher rails could be easily produced at a very low cost, and in any light industry installation, this meant factories that lacked heavy equipment for artillery guns could even produce the Katyusha launcher. By 1942, 3,237 Katyusha launchers had been built, and by the end of the war, over 10,000 were produced. In the early stages of the war, launchers were placed onto many different vehicles for testing, including the ZIS-6, the ZIS-5, along with the STZ-5 artillery tractor, and even a few were tested on the KV-1 tanks. However, it was decided this was a waste of heavy armour. One of the smaller rocket variants, the BM-8, was also mounted onto the T-40, T-60 tanks, and even the Willis Jeep, which was the Gaz-67 in Russia. Interesting looking vehicle, yes. In the end, they were mounted on a variety of Lend-Lease trucks too, but by 1943 it was decided that the standard issue was to be upon the Studebaker US-6 truck due to its excellent cross-country performance. A small modification was made to the trucks, adding 4mm armour hatches across the windows, and that is what we see. If I get to the right spot, that's what we see just here. Now, it was not for protection from small arms fire, but mainly for protection from the rockets themselves, because the fire from the rocket and the force from the rocket would basically shatter the glass and cause heating and cause the glass to crack, things like that. Now, this armour was actually raised on flaps, so you can see the hinges there. They were actually placed up when they were driving. The first use of the Katyusha was with the special unit of the Russian military, the NKVD. Due to the top-secret nature of the Katyusha, these specialist troops were used early on in the war. On the 14th of July in 1941, the experimental artillery battery was used for the first time in Rudnya, in the Smolensk province. The Katyusha was used on a concentration of German troops with a large amount of tanks, trucks and armoured vehicles. They were waiting at a marketplace in the town. The first strike with 7 of the launchers caused a large number of casualties, as well as destroying and damaging a high number of vehicles. This caused mass panic in the German ranks and caused a retreat from the town. Captain Ivan Flerov's daring attack with this experimental vehicle led to the Red Army to start a counter-offensive. Flerov managed a few other victories with the weapon, including an attack on a German freight train at Orasha. The Katyusha managed to destroy a train carrying ammunition, fuel, and new tanks for the front. We'll just switch here to a test drive, just for a few moments' time. Along with the station, he managed to also destroy the station as well, with their first salvo from 8 vehicles. The second salvo took out a bridge across the Orishka River, which connected to the Minsk and Moscow highway. This also stalled the 17th Panzer Division for more than 3 days due to damage taken from the barrage. In the autumn of 1941, Flerov's unit was surrounded in the swamplands near the Ugra River and were heavily shelled by German mortars. Fighting to the end using every last bit of ammunition they had, Captain Flerov ordered his men to scuttle the few remaining vehicles and Katyusha launchers they had, and retreat. However, Flerov and 75% of his men were killed in action. In 1995, he was posthumously awarded the Hero of the Russian Federation, the highest honorary title in the Russian Federation. Although the BM-13 has long since retired, the system in the Katyusha is still in use to this day. The BM-24, the spiritual successor, still used sometimes in conflicts to this day, was actually used in the First Iraq War. They found a few of those vehicles being used by the Iraqis, which is kind of interesting. A vehicle that has carried on use, a gun platform, well, a weapon platform that is still in use to this day. So, that's the history of the Katyusha out of the way. Let's talk about its in-game use. So, what can you expect from this vehicle? Well, the BM-13 carries 16 M13 rockets, containing 4.9 kilograms of TNT, high explosives, travelling at 355 meters per second. It's best to fire about 3 to 4 rockets at a time, as reload is very slow, but the rockets have a very high rate of fire. You could actually fire 120 rockets per minute if you had that many rockets. It also has a terrible depression rating and a very narrow arc of fire. As you can see, you can only move the platform left to right very, very small amounts. So it's very hard to find a spot for this vehicle to shoot from. So, for instance, if we were, say, fighting this Panzer IIc here, we would have to get on a hill to shoot it. So in this position here we could hit it, but if we were on the flat we actually might not be able to hit it. Tanks up to around about 20 meters close, or around about 20 meters or so close to you, you might not be able to actually hit with this vehicle because it is an artillery piece. You'll find that the rockets just fly straight over it. So let's fire here. This is the lowest we can depress. And as you see, even our bottom rocket there just flies straight over the Panzer. So we can't actually hit him at this distance, which is very frustrating. Now, because this vehicle is actually artillery, it's meant for long distance engagements. So, say the Panther D over there, that would sort of be the range where you'd be firing at. You'd probably be firing a lot further than that, in all honesty. But on a flat, that's sort of the range you have to sort of go for. And as you can see, aiming is very difficult. Because there's no markers, you just have to guesstimate your position. So this means in War Thunder it's pretty much useless for War Thunder ground battles, because everything tends to be quite close for War Thunder, which is pretty tricky when you're fighting with something that you can't hit things at close range. City maps and the like, this thing is useless at, because unless you basically park the truck in a point where you're sort of slightly depressed, so if we were in this position we could possibly get the front down a little bit here, but that's the best that we're going to get for depression. So, you know, that's the only way you can really fight. And of course the other thing is, because this isn't a tracked vehicle, because this is a truck, you can't neutral steer with it. So when you're in this position, you can't turn left and right, of course, on the spot. You have to reverse and go forwards to change position. Because you have such a low arc of fire, such a narrow arc of fire, I mean, it's very tricky to get into the right spot for this thing. The truck is rated for 47 miles per hour. However, fully loaded, flat out, you're lucky to go at about 20. And being a 6x6, it's not overly agile. It does, however, have some good torque, so you can get out of trouble if you sort of get stuck, and you can also get up some hills and things like that. So that is very useful. As I said, aiming with this is very tricky because you don't have the up and down notches. It's very hard to sort of guesstimate a distance at which you're firing. So, in this spot here, for instance, we're about 179 meters away. 410 for that Panzer. Sorry, 400. Yeah, about 410 kilometers away. So it's a bit tricky to guesstimate your distance because you don't have the notches underneath. So you have to go, oh, okay, what's 410? Try there. And as you see, just a little bit high. So it's very hard to sort of get your eye in to fire it. You usually need to fire off a couple of rockets to get those hits. But when you do get a hit, you will generally do some good damage. But keep in mind, this thing has pretty low penetration. Because it is high explosive, it only has a penetration value of 39mm. The arc of the rocket does mean that generally you'll hit from above, but being high explosives as well, sometimes it does ignores sloped armor and things like that. So you can do some seriously big damage with these rockets, and what you're coming up against, you know, some of the Panzers like the Panzer 4s and 5s and stuff, if you hit them on the side, you're generally going to take them out in a single shot. But at the same time, you're going to have trouble as well, because that single shot you're going to have, you might take them out, or you might just damage them severely. You might not get the kill straight away. And as I said, to actually get the aim on it, it's really quite hard. So let's fire at the mouse up here. And so he's 440 meters away, uphill. So let's fire here. Direct hit. So that's good. So we can fire again. Direct hit, we get his cannon. Get some good hits. Let's just move up a bit closer. Now, it is possible to actually kill the mouse with this vehicle. You have to be very lucky. But because of the explosive nature of the rockets, if you get the rocket to actually arc down on it, you can actually hit the top armor and cause some serious damage. But you're generally not going to get super armored vehicles and kill them. You're going to have trouble with that. Now we're just reloading here. So let's wait for that to happen. I'll do a few more shots. What I would advise in this vehicle is hold back, don't charge forwards. Try and find a good spot. Try and find a spot where you can actually angle the vehicle down a bit on a hill. Because if you're angled up, you're not going to hit anything. This Panzer 5, 4, 5, I always forget Roman numerals. You can see we're slightly angled, so we can actually fire at this vehicle. But if we were on the flat, we might struggle, and especially as it gets closer. So let's try a rocket off here. Almost. Got a critical hit there, so we've damaged his fuel tank, I believe. Or we've damaged a track. Of course, you can fire underneath a vehicle and cause some serious damage. But there we go, we got the good hit there on top of that. And that's the thing with these rockets, is if you hit the section atop of somewhere, you're going to cause some serious damage. Because they've got some decent explosive filler in them. Of course, with this mouse here, you're not going to be able to do much to seriously heavy armoured vehicles. But anything with around about 40mm of armour around the side, like the Panther that I shot earlier on, you're actually going to get some good damage to it. Now, when you're firing at long distance, it can be very hard because, well, as I said, it's very much guesstimation. being that you have so few rockets as well, you have to be very careful. The other thing you have to keep in mind as well is the rockets will not always go to the same spot twice. And that can be very, very annoying. As you saw there, one hit and one flew straight over it. Now this is because A, one rocket's mounted higher than the other, and B, rockets generally have different trajectory paths. You also go right from left. So this means your first shot you have to sort of basically fire a little bit off to the right, and then you have to fire to the left for the last shot. So it's very tricky to get the shots on target with this. But when you do get a kill, it's very, very rewarding. I've only managed to get a couple of kills in game with it, for proper games that is. Marder, I actually snuck up behind him and managed to angle on a hill and get him, and it felt very good. But it's not very often we do get some good kills with this, because it is very tricky to use. There we go, we managed to get the Tiger down. As I said, it's not impossible to kill heavily armoured vehicles with this, but it is tricky. At range, as I said, it is pretty hard, because you have to really guesstimate your aims. You do have some idea of where things are if you know roughly what your indicator is going to be, but because you don't have that distance indicator, you've only got the left to right indicator, it does make it very tricky. So it's something I kind of wish they would add for the rockets, because even if it's not fully precise, it would make life a little bit easier for people using these machines. All in all though, this vehicle is very much a collector's piece. It's something to play with now and then, but generally kept for a little bit of fun. As I said, at the moment there's thousands of these on the battlefield, and well, if you're playing as a Russian at 3.7 BR, you're generally going to lose a lot of games, because everybody starts off in the Katyusha and dies pretty quickly because you've only got 2 crew members. But when that eases up a bit, when people aren't playing it as much and it becomes a bit rarer on the battlefield, I can see this being a fun vehicle to have now and again. I'm kind of hoping that we do get some form of artillery play, being that there are more artillery vehicles coming into the game. Maybe some form of artillery aiming or artillery mode for vehicles would be nice. But at the same time, I can see that, you know, not being a thing that will come in. Not overly come in. We might not see it, but it could be a cool little feature if it does, and it would make the Katyusha a lot more useful in a battle situation. But as I did say, the main issue with this vehicle is the lack of ammunition. It's devastating when it hits, if it hits in the right spot, but hitting is the hard part. But if you can master it, this vehicle can be an absolute beast on the battlefield. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry for a few of the pauses, I'm not feeling too well, I had to have a bit of a brain restart. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your experience with the Katyusha below, and I will catch you again soon. This is Squeezeler out. Thank you guys, and have a good day. Bye bye.